Have you ever noticed how one person's words can ruin your whole day? A careless comment, a rude tone, or even silence, and suddenly you're carrying their energy like it belongs to you. But here's the truth: nobody deserves that kind of power over your peace. Imagine living in a way where no matter what someone says or does, it doesn't stick to you. It just passes through. That's what today is about: how to never feel angry or bothered by anyone again. When something catches you off guard, whether it's a rude comment, a frustrating email, or a disrespectful gesture, the natural instinct is to react right away. We want to defend ourselves, prove a point, or release the tension boiling inside. But here's the problem: your very first reaction usually belongs to the other person, not you. It's triggered by their actions, their words, their energy. That means, in that split second, you're handing over your control. The way to take that power back is simple, but not always easy. Pause before you react. That pause is small, sometimes no more than a breath, but it's everything. The same volume. It's the difference between saying something you regret and saying something that sets you free. It's the difference between escalating a problem and diffusing it before it even begins. Think about the last time you snapped back without thinking. Chances are it didn't solve anything. It may have even made things worse. Now imagine if in that moment you had paused, breathed, and chosen your next step instead of letting the situation choose it for you. That's where the strength is. Pausing doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're letting the other person win. It means you're taking ownership of yourself before you give them a piece of your mind. The person who controls their pause controls the room. They control the tone. They control the direction of what happens next. A pause gives your emotions time to settle, and it gives your brain the chance to catch up with your mouth. Without that pause, you're running on autopilot, and autopilot reactions usually come from ego, anger, or defensiveness. With a pause, you step into intention. You get to choose whether to respond with calmness, silence, humor, or firmness. One of the greatest advantages of pausing is clarity. In heated moments, emotions cloud judgment. You hear insults louder than truth. You see disrespect instead of perspective, and you assume the worst before considering the other person's reality. But when you pause, you clear the fog. Realize that maybe the rude cashier isn't targeting you. They're just exhausted. Maybe the harsh text from a friend wasn't an attack. It was a reflection of their own bad day. The pause gives you enough space to see the situation for what it is, not just for how it feels in the moment. Think of it like this: if someone throws a spark at you, you have two options. You can toss fuel on it by reacting instantly, or you can pause long enough to let it fizzle out. Most sparks die on their own if you don't feed them. That pause protects your peace. It keeps you from wasting energy on battles that don't matter. It preserves your dignity in moments when losing your temper would cost you more than you realize. Now, pausing doesn't always feel natural, especially when emotions are high. That's why it's a practice. You train it like a muscle. Start small. When someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of honking or shouting, take a breath. When someone interrupts you in a conversation, pause for a beat before you continue. Each time you do it, you're building the discipline to choose yourself instead of surrendering to the moment. Over time, that pause becomes your power. People will notice it. They'll see that you don't get rattled easily, that you're not quick to anger, that you carry yourself with calm authority. And here's the truth: people respect the one who stays composed more than the one who always reacts. The pause not only changes how you see others, it changes how others see you. So the next time life throws you a spark, remember this: you don't have to be the fire. Take a breath, pause, and step back into your own strength. Because in that space between what happened and what you choose to do, that's where your freedom lies. When someone comes at you with anger, disrespect, or criticism, the first thought that runs through your mind is usually, why are they doing this to me? You take it as a personal attack. Their words feel like daggers pointed straight at your character, and suddenly you're caught in the heat of the moment. But here's the shift that changes everything. Most of the time, it's not about you at all. People project their frustrations, insecurities, and stress onto whoever is standing closest to them. When you learn to detach the person from the problem, you stop carrying their baggage as if it belongs to you. Think about it. When a coworker snaps at you, is it really because you're the problem, or is it because they're under pressure, tired, or upset about something else? When a stranger is rude, is it really because you deserve that attitude, or because they're fighting their own battles behind the scenes? When you stop taking their storm personally, you see that the thunder is yours. This realization doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it frees you from making it your identity. Detaching the person from the problem doesn't mean ignoring what happened. It means you see the difference between the individual and the issue they're dealing with. Allows you to address the situation without attacking their character or letting your emotions hijack the moment. For example, instead of thinking, this person disrespects me, you can reframe it as, this person is struggling with how they're handling the situation. That small mental shift softens the emotional sting and gives you room to respond with clarity instead of defensiveness. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming intent. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and instantly you label them as inconsiderate or selfish. But the truth is, you don't know their story. Maybe they're rushing to the hospital. Maybe they're distracted by something heavy weighing on their mind. The point isn't to excuse reckless behavior. It's to protect yourself from unnecessary anger. By separating the person from the problem, grant yourself a healthier perspective. When you detach, you also make space for empathy. You start asking, what might they be going through? Instead of, why are they treating me this way? That shift alone changes your entire emotional landscape. Curiosity replaces judgment, and compassion replaces resentment. You begin to understand that most people's reactions are less about who you are and more about what they are experiencing. This perspective doesn't make their words or actions acceptable, but it keeps you from internalizing them. Another benefit of this practice is that it keeps conversations from escalating. If you treat every problem as a personal attack, you respond with equal force, and the cycle continues. But if you step back and see the problem as separate from the person, you can address the issue directly without damaging the relationship. For instance, telling someone, I feel disrespected when I'm interrupted, is different from saying, you're always rude. The first addresses the problem. The second attacks the person. One opens the door to resolution. The other builds a wall. This skill takes time to develop because our emotions are quick to fuse the two together. But every time you practice it, you build resilience. The next time someone lashes out, remind yourself, this isn't about me, it's about what they're carrying. That mantra alone can save you from hours of unnecessary frustration. Detaching the person from the problem doesn't just make you calmer, it makes you stronger. You stop reacting to every slight, every insult, every careless word. You start living with the kind of emotional intelligence that allows you to hold your peace in the middle of someone else's storm. And when you live that way, you'll find that nothing and no one has the power to bother you the same way again. Most people think setting boundaries means putting up walls or shutting people out, but that's not what true boundaries are about. A boundary is not a weapon you use to push someone away. It's a door that you control. It's a clear line that says, this is what I allow and this is what I don't. The problem is, a lot of us only set boundaries when we're angry, and by then, our emotions have already taken over. We shout, we slam doors, we say things we can't take back. And while the point of the boundary might be valid, the way it's delivered can damage trust, respect, or even relationships. The real strength is being able to set boundaries without anger. Boundaries delivered calmly are actually more powerful than ones delivered in frustration. Anger can make your message feel like an attack, but calm firmness makes it undeniable. Imagine someone constantly texting you at late hours when you're trying to rest. If you wait until you're exhausted and annoyed, you might snap at them. Stop blowing up my phone at night! But if you calmly say, I turn my phone off at 10, so I'll respond in the morning, you've drawn a line without hostility. The difference is night and day. One invites conflict, the other commands respect. What's important to understand is that boundaries are not about controlling other people. You can't make someone respect you, but you can decide what behavior you will and won't tolerate. You're not telling people who they should be. You're telling them who you will be in response. That's the power of boundaries. For example, if someone keeps raising their voice at you, you can say, "I'm happy to continue this conversation when it's respectful." If they keep yelling, you step away. You didn't get angry. You didn't match their energy. You simply showed that your peace isn't negotiable. The reason people often avoid boundaries is fear of confrontation, fear of rejection, fear of looking too harsh. But here's the truth: you teach people how to treat you by what you allow. If you say nothing, people assume it's fine. If you respond with anger, they focus on your reaction instead of the issue. But if you calmly, consistently reinforce your line, people learn where the limits are. Calm boundaries also make your relationships healthier. They prevent resentment from building up. How many times have you held your tongue, let things slide, and stayed quiet, only to explode later because the weight became too heavy? That explosion usually surprises the other person because they never knew you were struggling. Setting boundaries early and doing it without anger prevents that hidden buildup. It creates clarity. It gives others a chance to adjust before things spiral. Another thing to remember is that boundaries are about consistency.